The samurai life sounds incredible until you realize you spent most of it doing paperwork. The sword was real. The honor code was real. But so was the debt, the boredom, and the fact that one bad afternoon could end with you cutting open your own stomach in front of an audience. In movies, samurai are walking philosophy departments with excellent posture. They meditate at sunrise, cut down 10 men without blinking, and die beautifully in slow motion.
You laugh.
But the real samurai life was not a highlight reel. It was rigid rules, financial stress, brutal training that started before you were old enough to understand what you were training for, and a code that owned you completely, body, mind, and death included. The word samurai does not even mean warrior. It comes from a Japanese word meaning to serve. That is the first clue. This was not the life of a free man, it was the life of a servant. A heavily armed, highly disciplined servant, but a servant all the same. And here's the thing movies always skip. For most of samurai history, the most dangerous thing in a samurai's hands was not a sword. It was a tax ledger. Samurai were not just soldiers. They were the military force, the police, the judges, the tax collectors, and the land managers all at once. For almost 700 years, Japan was governed by the warrior class. That means the warriors were also the government. And governments mostly generate paperwork. Training began in childhood, wooden swords before real ones. Falls, bruises, broken fingers, no complaint allowed. But here is something most people never learn. The most important weapon for much of samurai history was not the katana. Early samurai were primarily mounted archers. Then, in 1543, Portuguese traders brought firearms to Japan, and Japan adopted guns so fast that within decades it may have had more firearms in circulation than many countries in Europe. The katana everyone pictures was often the last resort, drawn when everything else had already failed. The katana's real power was symbolic. Samurai were legally permitted to carry 2 swords in public. That pair of blades was your identity made visible. And what that identity permitted was extraordinary. There was a law called Kirisute Gomen, which translates directly as authorization to cut and leave the body. It was the legal right of a samurai to kill a commoner on the spot for a serious act of disrespect. Not arrest, kill, legally. A commoner who bumped into a samurai and failed to apologize sufficiently was risking their life. Some samurai used this privilege to kill merchants they owed money to. The system was built to protect honor. It was also built to be abused, and it was. In peacetime, a typical samurai's day involved training, administrative duties, tax collection, legal disputes, calligraphy, and poetry. They also attended tea ceremonies, which were not optional hobbies. The same focus required in combat was applied to silence and hot water and a ceramic bowl, and they studied Confucian philosophy, history, mathematics, military strategy. A samurai who could only fight was considered less admirable than one who could fight, govern, write, and think. But then there was the money problem. Samurai were paid in rice, not cash, a fixed amount per year, while prices around them kept rising. Many samurai families lived in quiet, dignified poverty. They kept the right clothes, used the right language, maintained the correct bearing in public. And underneath all of that, they borrowed money from merchants, the people sitting at the very bottom of the social order that samurai were supposed to dominate. The men at the top of Japan's social world were going broke, borrowing from the men they officially ranked above, and everyone involved had to pretend that wasn't happening. If your lord died or was disgraced, you became a Ronin, a masterless samurai. The word means drifter. Your stipend vanished immediately. Your social status collapsed. Some Ronin became teachers or mercenaries. Some turned to coastal raiding, blurring the line between samurai and pirate so completely it became hard to tell the difference. A few, like the wandering swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, became legends. Most got the wandering and not the legend. And then there was the darkest part of the code. Seppuku. Ritual suicide by disembowelment. If a samurai faced irredeemable dishonor, he was expected to restore it through this act, performed in ceremony, with witnesses, with composure. Over time, it shifted from a voluntary act of honor into a form of punishment handed down by the state. A samurai could be sentenced to perform it. The honor in it was partly theater. The death was always real. The code never asked for some of your life. It asked for all of it. Then came 1868. The Meiji Restoration modernized Japan, dissolved the feudal system, and in 1876 banned samurai from carrying swords in public. The two blades that had been their visible identity for centuries were now illegal. The last test came in 1877, when thousands of former samurai charged Japan's new imperial army in the Satsuma Rebellion. The new army had rifles and artillery. The rebellion ended the way that math always ends.
So what was life really like as a samurai? It was an identity so complete it left almost no room for a person underneath it. Poverty hidden behind the correct posture. A lifetime of preparation for battles that might never come, fought with guns instead of the sword everyone assumed you used. There was real beauty in it. The ceremony, the discipline, the idea that how you pour tea is how you face death, and both deserve full attention. But the beauty and the weight were always the same thing. Samurai did not live freely. They lived inside an idea of what a person was supposed to be, and that idea was demanding enough to fill a lifetime, and then collect the lifetime at the end. The sword belonged to them.